Today's youth need teachers, volunteers, and most of all, well, they need you. I'm Doug Edwards, and I'm going to be talking with real youth mentors and students to give you the knowledge you need to be the best youth worker possible. This is Youth Worker on Fire.
Oh, you're trying to bring me down and run me out of town. You're taking what you want, but you can't take my rhythm now. I'm walking to my own beat, just gonna be me. I'm not replicating nobody.
So my wife and I, we watch a few shows together. Now, when you get older in your marriage, you find that maybe you like different things for different reasons. And you might watch or read or be entertained by certain different things separately because you've got these different things going on. You just see the things differently. But we have a few shows that we like together. And one is called American Pickers. American Pickers has been on for a few years. And I was watching, and they go and they're salvage people. They like old things, and they buy them, and then they resell them to other people who like old things and antiques and things like this. There are also people who like to preserve history. But it was very unique because they were picking up in every show. They might get these really big items, but they get these small items. And here's what Mike says that caught my ear, and he's the star of the show. It's the smalls that keep us in business. It's the smalls that keep us in business. And that hit me because that's student ministry. See, these guys go after big items as well. High six-figure vintage cars and trucks and motorcycles also. They restore historical buildings. They shop. This is him and his brother and a couple of other people on the show. But the things that keep them going are the small items. They can be sold to anyone and sold very quickly. Those individual valuable items they buy with certain people in mind because they have different types of clientele that go to them because they're well known. And they're also a TV show. So you've got a large audience. The church is the same way. It's those one-on-one times with the individuals that change the trajectory of your community and the world. It's the smalls that keeps your student ministry in business too. The face-to-face asks have been the most impactful, long-term, effective moments in all of my ministry life. The big events and trips, camps, adventure trips, and big meetings, those weekly meetings of the group are important. But the after meeting of small groups, asking a student or parent or someone who is wanting to know more, like the question, would you like to have a personal relationship with Jesus? Or what's happening in your life? Is there something I can pray for you about? When you're doing that one-on-one or in small group Bible studies, it's like taking a meal to a needy family and just a couple of students and another staffer go with you. Those smalls, that's what keeps us alive. That's what fuels a movement, a mission, not just a program or something that won't last. So the scripture is this: do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin, to see the plumb line in Zerubbabel's hand. I always have a hard time pronouncing his name. Zerubbabel. I know we went over this many times in Bible studies throughout the decades. The 7 lamps represent the eyes of the Lord that search all around the world. That was the end of that scripture. Zechariah 4:10, New Living Testament. Well, what's a plumb line? Plumb line, well, I actually looked up the definition. I knew what it was, but I wanted it defined well. It's a line with a plumb attached to it or a weight used for finding the depth of water or determining, in this case, because they were rebuilding the temple, determining the vertical on an upright surface. It had to be exactly plumb, exactly right. Because if you didn't have that first straight line, that first side of the wall straight, then the whole building would be off. The Lord loved to see that in Zerubbabel's hand, just the beginning, the SMALLS. We've talked about the individuals that have come to know Christ, the people, the students that I had to give a ride home and I asked that question to, the students that would say, hey, I want a meeting with you, and I have a meeting. And the whole meeting was coming to find out they wanted to know Jesus and didn't know how to say it and didn't know what they were looking for. And I would ask the question, would you like to have Jesus in your heart? And the answer in most cases was yes. And I was always a little taken back at how fast the yeses came individually, because in group meetings, they did not come so easily. Or if they did, I would find out weeks and months later. It's the SMALLS that matter. Don't forget how important small groups. Some of the largest churches in the United States and largest student ministries are built on small group meetings. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of people, starting with 5, 10, 20 when they started. One church started with 60. They sent out 60,000 letters throughout Southern California and the Los Angeles area, and 60 people showed up to begin the church, people they didn't even know. To this day, 40 years later, somewhere around there, it was told by the pastor that those 60 people are still with this church of hundreds of 100,000 or more. I think it's several 100,000 now. Why? Because they are built on small groups, and that whole ministry is built around home churches and small groups. And I saw their student ministry and other student ministries of larger places. It's just smaller student ministries over and over and over and over to build a big student ministry or a larger church, but it's always focused on the SMALLS. It's all about the SMALLS.
You've been listening to the Youth Worker on Fire podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and tell your friends. Also, leave a comment and tell us what you think. Stay tuned for more informative episodes.